Hey everybody, I'm CPC Gamer, and welcome back to Let's Play All-Star Fighters. Except there's going to be a considerable break in the amount of playing we actually do because, you know, the loading screen. You stay classy, Andy. So, as the Wadsworth constant proved itself to be true in the first video, so again does it do so in the second video. Allow me to introduce Ryo Futaba. I'm not entirely sure I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. As you can see, her name is spelled R-I-H-O. I just pronounce it Ryo because it sounds suitably stripperific. Funny how the word gratuitous just instantly springs to mind, you know? So, Ryo is the main antagonist, and she initially debuted in the game Demolition Girl, which, in Japan, they called it the Daibijin, which means a large, beautiful woman. In the game, she grew many feet in size and went on a rampage to destroy the head offices of the game's programmers. The plot of the game was initially conceived as an April Fool's Day joke, in this case from the guys over at GamePro, but when D3 heard about it, they just made the game anyway. Challenge accepted, that sort of thing. As you can see, well, as you'll be able to see when she doesn't just lie in the water, Ryo doesn't actually attack. She poses and she panders to the crowds, the audience, the characters she's fighting, and this makes perfect sense given that, canonically speaking, she is a swimsuit model. Or a radio DJ. Or a waitress. Professional mahjong player, ping pong pro, boxer, zombie bounty hunter. Basically, whenever D3 need a character and they can't be bothered to write one, it's probably going to be Ryo. And she's probably going to be mostly naked. So in that respect, it's kind of like Nintendo and Plumber Joe, you know? She was in an aerobics and DDR game called Love Aerobics. She was also the host of a mahjong game. And she was also in, well, a couple of other fighting games, but specifically one called Fighting Angels: The Cat Fight. And part of me wants it because it's horrendously bad, but at the same time, I kind of feel that if I buy it, most of the women I know will have to rescind their right to vote. That is how much it will set back women's lib, you know? Not to mention I get put on some sort of creepy register for it. Ugh. Although with that said, I do feel kinda bad for Ryo because, I mean, D3 have tried to portray her as a strong female character, and to that extent she kind of is, because in certain games she's been known to pick up a sword and take on entire armies on her own. It's just she's not really going to go anywhere, given that she turns up in a bikini for the most part. Oh well. What can you do? So that's all we're going to see from her for now, but yeah, you can expect to see her in most of the other D3 games that I'm going to LP for you guys. Hey, why start with one pile of garbage, am I right? So, yeah, this next character is called Ginny, and hey, what do you know? She actually got dressed for the fight. Who knew? As you can see, Ginny is accompanied by a small cat. He's actually mostly hidden behind the text box at this point. This is sort of her projectile, and it makes her one of the hardest characters to master, but one of the best characters to use because you can just fly at the opponent from any and all angles at any time. It's kind of like Carl and Nirvana from BlazBlue. Yeah, if I can't compare this game to Guilty Gear, I'm going to compare it to BlazBlue. Which is pretty much just Guilty Gear anyway, except not called that. Ah, well. So the manual says that the cat's name is Blackie, and I want to say that's racist. Is that racist? I think it is. I need to check up on that. Not that it really matters, because Ginny calls the cat Kensaku, which is what the cat's name was in Japan. They changed the text, but not the voices, obviously. I'm not entirely sure why they changed the name of the cat, because Detective, the game that Ginny comes from, never got released in English. It was just in Japan. And Kensaku means the modest schemer, which, if you ask me, is a pretty fitting name for a cat. Now, the main problem with Ginny, to me, is not the steep learning curve, and it's not the fairly limited array of attacks that she has compared to some of the other characters. It's the fact that a lot of her animations look really, really awkward, and I can't place why. You saw earlier how she did a standing somersault, and in a bit, yeah, like just that attack there. You've seen how she just sort of spins on the axis. It looks like they're trying to cram too much stuff into too short a time span, and I guess that's why it looks a bit awkward. I really don't know. Also, you could sort of conceive Ginny as D3's way of saying, do you know what? We don't just have scantily clad women in our games. Aren't we forward-thinking? But given that my character is wearing a high-cut cheongsam over the high-cut loincloth, kind of a pot and kettle moment, am I right? So, this fellow is Dando, and he's pretty much just strong mad, which settles a bet that Hannah and I had going on that we could get all three of the stronger brethren into the 3 games we, well, were intending to LP together. In terms of how he controls, Dando is an absolute tank, I've got to be honest with you. He has this 1-2 hit combo that ends fights. It's basically either stun blocking and juggling and you can't get out of it. Thankfully, the AI doesn't know how to use it. Even on the hardest difficulty setting, Dando will never juggle you, even though, hey, that's what I'd do. Although with that said, I've kind of established myself to be really, really cheap playing games like this, so, you know. Dando debuted in a game called World Fighters. Well, no. Outside of Japan, it was called World Fighters. Inside Japan, it was called the various unarmed fighting disciplines, boxing versus kick versus karate versus pro wrestling versus jiu-jitsu versus. Seriously, that is what the game was called. And it's kind of a thing that D3 have going on, that they mostly name their games after what they are, like the Mahjong, the ping pong, the remote control helicopter, the maze, or whatever. But come on, guys. That was being a little bit too literal, wouldn't you say? So yeah, Dando, in that particular game, Dando represented pro wrestling, and isn't it kind of ironic to include that in a game that is meant to be an unarmed fighting? Because it's not, well, at least pro wrestling, you know, like the WWF, isn't, strictly speaking, a form of attack. And yes, I said WWF. That's how I grew up calling it. That's what it will forever be in my head. I forget who put it, but you're not going to get the two WWF organizations confused because you've never actually seen a panda throw another panda through a flaming table. Hey folks, welcome to Let's Play Other People's Jokes, am I right? Ah, well. The next character is Makoto Futaba. Now, you may actually recognize that last name. You know, if you've been paying attention and not just staring at boobs like I've been doing. Makoto is Riho's younger sister. And this is the first game in which they have appeared together. Maybe. I don't actually know that to be sure. I just figured that, you know, I can say that because nobody cares about this game, and I don't think you're going to be petty enough to check my working like that. So, yeah, Makoto is basically the Chun-Li Zhang of the group. She has a lightning kick move, and although with that said, her special move is akin to something that Akuma has. And I think we're going to see that. Maybe. Actually, with that said, I wrote the joke that these guys, Makoto and Riho, haven't appeared in a game together yet. They actually have. They appeared in a game called Love Song. Riho Futaba is 19 years old. And it's not a dating sim as such because you don't actually get to date Riho. It's basically Riho is having problems with her boyfriend and has friend zoned you and wants to come to you to complain about it. The game does boast that you can scroll around and view the screens as you're playing the game. And if you think that means you can zoom in on her boobs, then you are precisely right. That is exactly what you do in that particular game. The one thing that I tend not to like too much about Makoto, not just fighting her as Cheval, but fighting her in general, she does tend to have a lot of genuine, like, sort of pained screams when you attack her. Also, denied! And it just feels bad, like I'm not having fun anymore, that I'm genuinely hurting this little girl, you know? Oh, denied again! But to get her revenge, she subsequently KOs me. Yeah, I should probably point out that the run that you're seeing now is not a perfect run of the game. Nor, indeed, should it be, because, frankly, that would be really, really depressing to me. That, I mean, it's one thing that I own this game and that I've played it for the internet. It would be quite another to practice it and ace it and do a perfect run the whole way through. Although, with that said, the game does have a really, really cute and somewhat awkward Englishy way of saying perfect whenever you do get a perfect victory. I don't believe it shows up in this LP, because as easy as the game is, the characters do actually do their best to swing at you and beat you up. Ugh, you see what I mean? I don't feel happy anymore. I need to go and sit in a corner or something. So, until next time, goodbye.